Now, this is not clickbait. I have what you came to see right over here. Now, I think this is the I think this is a great topic for a lot of preppers out there that are concerned about protecting themselves, and there are a lot of what do you call them? It's like mythical topics out there on the internet for prepper related content. How you could fail if you had a pump shotgun for these reasons, and there are so many topics on shotgun related stuff, but shotguns are the ultimate prep, and I'm going to tell you why. And I've got a reloading video that has been on YouTube now for like 10 years or something like that, and I know it has inspired a lot of people to reload ammunition. And I always think back to that because I always get comments on it. And yes, I always respond. You know, I'm like the #1 YouTuber out there that actually talks. Now, the Load All 2, if you look up the Lee Load All 2 reloading system, and or if you go back and watch that video for that particular reloader, this used to be a reloading channel, and I used to do nothing but reloads. And I did reloads for like every caliber on the planet. I even had, well, I still have that one up, I believe, 50 BMG. And the gun communities, it's tough a community to keep alive because with so many, groups that want to end the communities, that it makes it really hard for us to stay afloat with that type of behavior. Now, I reloaded everything from any caliber, you name it, even did 22. I did a video for reloading 22 caliber. I reloaded 22 caliber multiple times, took it out and hit targets with it, and it tripped a lot of people out. 22 is another great caliber because you can get, I think, for about $140, you can probably get about, what was it, like, I think it was a little over 2,000 rounds of 22 for like $140 or something like that. There are some better deals out there. You just got to know where to shop. Now, now for reloading 12 gauge, the reason why it's you can reuse the hull over and over until the case splits, until it's ruined, and you can stuff just about anything you want in it. And the gunpowder is very forgiving. That's the other thing. You can take almost any hull as long as it's the proper length. Now, if you've got like this guy up here at the top, now I've had that one for several years. If you've got something like that, it can take a 3-inch shell, 4-inch shell. It doesn't matter. It's a break action. You have to load whatever it is you've made for it. You can shoot any length projectile, shove anything you want in those things, and the only thing that you kind of run into is where if you've added more powder than what would be necessary for the wad to go through the hull out the end, because it has to have pressure. The way a shotgun works is a little bit different than what you're used to with like pistols and rifles and things like that. Now, the way a shotgun works is totally different. It has to have a slight bit of a pinch. Like that barrel has to have some sort of hold for that to be able to build up to launch that thing out of there. I know it's hard to believe, but if you took like a perimeter mine, I don't know how many of you ever messed with like the perimeter defense stuff where you actually trip the wire and the round goes off, which that is another epic prep. I have plenty of those, but I don't set them up because for legal reasons, you wouldn't want some hunter, even though a hunter, there's different laws for different states. You have to pay attention to these things. Because if you just randomly set up a bunch of perimeter mines all over the place, and now if you did like the ones that just pop and go bang, those are fine. But if you do like something that's going to be lethal, you'll be responsible for anything that happens with that thing because it's on your property. Even if the person is trespassing, you still shot them, so you're still going to be responsible. There's a lot of stuff that goes into this stuff, so it's not like I never want to influence any of you to do anything crazy like that. Unless you're in some kind of end time scenario, then by all means, that's what we call world without rule of law. Once we're in a world without rule of law, that's when you start, you know, when it's Teowaki, you know, the end of the world as we know it, and world of the world without rule of law kicks in. That's when all that type of stuff starts taking place. And that falls back into shotgun is the ultimate prep, because they can fire in different circumstances like that. But once you take one out of a barrel and fire it off like that, it literally becomes a explosion. So it would make a circle ball effect. It wouldn't be like it would not come out straight. That's what I'm trying to tell you guys. That's why shotguns have to have a barrel that pinches them down so that they can travel to the end. Otherwise, they're just they'll just blow up. I've seen it. Trust me, I've seen it. So they might come out to us like a couple of inch from the wad and then scatter everywhere, but they just don't travel. Let's just say that. And so the shorter the barrel is not always the good thing. So you need to keep that in mind. Now, reloads, you can stuff anything you want in them, and the forgiving effect. I know. I think in one of my videos back for 12 gauge was, you know, the average. I mean, if you're using HS6 or if you're using what is it, long shot or something along that line, they're, I mean, generally typically the same powder. You know, they're the same consistency of powder. Like, you got to look at the burn rates. And when you've been reloading as much as I have, like when I've shown you many times on the channel, I thought the ammo cans are crazy. I mean, I've got ammo can after ammo can. Each ammo can, like a 50 cal ammo can, generally holds 250 shot shells or 12 gauge shells, and I've filled them up so many times just using BB shot. And people would say, oh, they're scoring, it's gonna cause all this stuff in your barrel, and it's baloney. None of that stuff happens. They do not make it away from the wad to even touch the barrel. You have to use a proper wad. If your wad goes all the way to the top and you're filling it all the way to the top, they're all staying together and they're all leaving that barrel, and they're not going to be scoring your barrel. And this goes back to Preparedness, the other type of shotgun rounds. They're used for like wild game, used for duck hunting and everything else, because we steered away from lead. You know, we've steered away from lead. So typically hunting doesn't involve a lot of lead shot for a lot of these. And when it comes to, mostly we've been switching over to steel shot, Preparedness, things like that. There's a reason for that, because you get the same results. That's the other thing. It's literally the same results, except you're putting something that's just, it's non-lead, and you don't want to ingest lead. Lead's very bad. But the reason why, you know, folks like lead, I'll take lead and I'll mold bullets. Now, that's for a whole nother thing. And it's amazing the stuff that you cannot show people on YouTube, like molding bullets. That's another one. You cannot show manufacturing of any type of ammunition and stuff like that. So it's just stuff that you cannot do. So it ends up being a lot of talking points. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, instead of talking about it, show us. Well, you're going to have to use your visualization and try to figure out some things for yourself. See, me, I measure grains. I measure, when it comes to my load all 2 that I have over here, when I'm reloading shotgun shells and I'm doing like the 177 BBs, and I'm making some shot for myself to go hunt or whatever it is I want to do, those rounds are generally all-purpose rounds. They can be used for all kinds of stuff. I would not recommend it for target shooting or anything. You do not use steel shot when you're shooting target shooting. And the reason why you don't use steel shot is because steel shot ricochets. You'll shoot your eye out, kid. You ever heard? You heard that phrase? It's the same thing, and it comes from steel shot. You cannot go shooting steel targets with steel shot. It's just going to bounce all over the place. You'll hit everything. You'll ping everything. So you have to hit some, you know, organic flesh or organic flesh. Anyway, so like the 32 grains of powder I would normally add for something like that. And in some cases where you've added, if you add less weight, you know, your ounce per shot. If you add less weight, then you end up with, it burns off less powder. It's not going to burn all the powder off. and you're going to see some powder, unburnt powder, come out the end of your barrel. It's going to happen because you didn't add enough weight to hold that long enough to be able to, or that goes back to crimping and roll crimps. And you can get a roll crimper for a couple of bucks on eBay. You can get the reloader for, I think, $70 now. It used to be like 40. But all this stuff, it's so cheap. And if you get like the like shotgun reloading for dummies or whatever, I've got several shotgun reloading manuals and I don't think they've made another one since then. It's like the Lyman's edition. They're great. And I've got like the all the old school shotgun reloaders and things like that. I've got like the hand loaders, and when it comes to primers, you can still get primers really cheap. They're super duper cheap. They're not as much as they used to be. The price has gone down substantially because I go to Ballistic Products often just to browse through and kind of look through. Now, I'm not going to type that in for you guys, so you're going to have to look it up. But if you go to like ballisticproducts.com or something, you just kind of browse around through their stuff, you'll see they have everything you need there. They don't sponsor me, but I sponsor them because they're in the gun community, and I try to share as much knowledge as I can. But if you utilize them, you can get your powders and everything else you need to get started from them. And you might want to get your reloader from somewhere else, or whatever. But doing this stuff is quite easy. And getting the data you need, like for my 32 grains, when it comes, like everybody asks me for my die. What die do you use for your machine? I don't give out that information because it's such detail. Like when you take a reloader like that and you fill it up with powder and you start running through it, and you take a scale just like you would for reloading. If you're reloading ammunition, you should have a scale. You should be scaling everything. You should be measuring everything and making sure the numbers are correct, the numbers match. You don't just take someone's word for it. Oh, use die number 113. It's okay. And and then they end up with like 50 grains of powder in each shot. That's not practical. You want to measure for yourself and know what you're doing. That's why I like doing things myself. I like knowing what I'm loading because I've been doing it so long. I would just prefer not to take someone's advice. Hey, just throw that die in there, you'll be good. I would never want to do that. That's why I never answer that question. So that just kind of sums that up. This guy here, this is my home defense Remington that I've got here. And I like this setup. This is a tack load. And my tack load's really cool because I can come up here and just grab one and it just load one in. So that's a interesting little feature to have. Now, having a fixed stock. Also incorporates into barrel length and everything else. That goes with everything you would need to know in order to have a shotgun that looks like this or a shotgun that looks like that. You have to have a fixed stock to do that. So if you want to know any more about that, that is pretty much the rule. And that kind of goes back to a lot of old gunsmiths that aren't really around anymore. I think that a lot of folks that used to give classes on this stuff had passed away, but the knowledge is still there. It just kind of gets curved around every now and then. A lot of people just go off of whatever the government tells you you're going to do, kind of thing, when that's not actually the law. And the law is, a shotgun has to have a fixed stock and it has to be certain inches long. Just like kind of like goes back with your short barrel rifles and things like that. Same thing applies to that. It has to be certain length long. Then you start bending the rules by making braces and everything else, and everything can, it's bending the rules once again. But you don't really have to bend the rules too much with a shotgun because it is the one that as long as you've got a stock on it, you are good to go. Now, but it has to be set up. If it comes sold as a shotgun, it has to be a shotgun. So that's just the way it plays. But this has got your Mesa Tactical. This is a Mesa Tactical rail here. And that allows me to put, this is supposed to be a pistol optic for a rail. All it is a little fiber optic thing that I picked up, and they just slip right on there. It helps you get where you want to go faster. When someone comes your way and you want to get where you want to go faster, that's kind of where lasers and everything else come in. And another interesting thing, let's see here. Let me pull this guy out here. I don't want to. You come here. There we go. This guy here, the beanbag round. These are my favorite. Now, you don't want to hurt anybody, but you want to hurt somebody. These things here will knock a fool down hard. I mean, you could break a rib with these if you hit them too close. But these will stop anything coming your way. And I usually use cheap 9 pellet double op. Those are, I think, a little bit bigger than, it's not a 45, but, 945s, but it's pretty close to being 945s coming at you. But I usually keep my first 2, that, and then I roll into, come here, you. I don't want to throw it on the floor. It's like, I'm flying in it. Here's another one for you. These are a little bit shorter. And this helps with space. See the space there? You end up with like, you can't really stuff a mag tube full if you've got, your shells are too long, but you want something a little bit shorter. Short shells, I think, are being discontinued. And then you have to have an adapter to run short shells. So it's kind of a disadvantage because you've got to have all this crap going on just to run shot shells. So it gets kind of lame-o after a while to do all that. And you can take a cheaper shotgun. This is a Retay USA. Now, they don't sponsor me and I don't sponsor them. Once again, we're back to that fixed stock thing. Fixed, solid. Now, this is hollow. I've actually, I wanted to do a survival shotgun type thing. This is a very lightweight shotgun. A survival type thing where, you put some gear inside of it. I was considering that, but it didn't really care too much. I wanted this to be more for like a home defense backup. If you can't, like with Retay USA, they do not make aftermarket parts for these things. So if you want a side saddle, you're going to have to do the Velcro. Now, this is just a tapey adhesive that sticks to the side, and you put your shells in it just like that. Now, in the front here, instead of having like the Streamlight flashlight like this one's got for a stock, this is the factory Retay USA, and it just has a grip here to make it a little bit easier on your life. And you've got a laser and a flashlight right here. It's all lined up. I just tacked it in and made it happen. And the realities and being able to reload ammo is a huge advantage, and being able to do it cheap is a huge advantage. Being able to load whatever you want in there, huge advantage. And a weapon that is relatively cheap, like $300, $200, I hear on the news all the time, like when I'm listening to the radio, the commercial come on, come up here now, we've got shotguns for $150. Happens every day of my life. There's somebody there is a gun store somewhere selling a shotgun, a 12 gauge shotgun for $150, and they're the best. They're really loud. I wouldn't recommend shooting them all over your house. If you had a break in, I'd make sure you're pointed at them and then shoot, because you don't want to mess around and shoot through everything in your house. Sometimes they're a little bit easier to deal with in situations. And if you put in game loads, it's easy for you to take out critters. If you've got, now I usually tend to run off things like foxes and stuff like that. They'll leave. They'll leave and they won't come back if you make enough noise. They won't. It's kind of like coyotes in the same way. Now you could easily go out there and kill a few coyotes if you needed to, but you don't have to kill coyotes for the most part. For me, it's all about being really loud. If if they come up on your property, make an explosion that's huge, they're never coming back. You'll see them next year, but they won't come back. That's just me. That's what I've experienced over the years. But for prepping wise, having a few shotguns definitely saves you some money, and not only that, but it does have more practicality in certain situations. Plus, if for the folks that are not a great shot, that's another good reason to have a shotgun. One of the internet rumors was that you could not pump one in freezing cold temperatures. Now, here in the snow, when we get snow here, it's probably not the same as 25, 30 below temperatures. Okay. So any firearm in those conditions, if you're negative freaking 20, I guarantee you any weapon would have a hard time unless it's a revolver. I think a revolver would be the only thing that would probably still function okay in those types of conditions. That's just my opinion. Or a bolt action. Then you still got to kind of pay attention to the round coming up into the chamber. Being able to take a pump shotgun in those kind of conditions might not be your best bet, or even a auto feed. It wouldn't matter, and they would still malfunction. That's just my opinion. But in normal cold conditions, I've had people tell me, like, "Oh, I heard this prepper, this one prepper said he doesn't do shotguns because in winter conditions the pump freezes up." Well, if you're in like 20 negative, yeah, I mean, you're in some serious cold. You're up in the Arctic type stuff. You ain't gonna get one of those things it's gonna get cold. One's gonna get tighter around the other one, and it's not gonna move. It will freeze up. It will jam. But and you're just standard, southern states and things like that, and Midwest. It might not be a situation you're ever going to be involved in. So some of that stuff kind of goes back to hearsay. So I think some people just need something to talk about sometimes. You know what I mean? That kind of goes with it. But if there's any other thing you need answers for, whatever, to help you out, just comment below and I will answer accordingly. And God bless. Take care and stay safe.